Hey everybody, I'm Alan with Bricks and Blocks Gaming, and in this video I'll be discussing the suggestion power for the game of Stargrave, explaining what it does, suggesting some strategies for using it, and giving my opinion and rating for it. So let's get to the bricks and blocks of suggestion. In the main Stargrave book, suggestion is one of the core powers for the Mystic and Psionicist backgrounds. It has an activation number of 12, causes 1 strain damage when successfully used, and being a line of sight power, it can target a figure up to 24 inches away. Also, it is subject to the rules for armor interference. A figure targeted by this power must make a will roll with a target number of 16 or they drop any loot they're carrying. Then the activator moves that figure up to 3 inches in any direction, as long as the movement won't cause them any immediate damage, like from falling. And even though it can't move the figure into combat, the author has clarified any power can pull a figure out of combat, and if a power leaves a figure within 1 inch of an enemy at the end of their movement, the enemy can force combat with them at that point. While the main use for this power is to make a figure drop any loot they're carrying, something to point out is it doesn't have to target a figure that's actually carrying loot. So it can target a loot unlocker to pull them away from a token they're trying to open, or pull an opposing captain or first mate out from behind cover so a sniper can take a clear shot. And I'll point out that suggestion can be used on allied figures, although they are required to attempt to resist it, because the text says they must make a resistance roll. So, as well as moving a figure out of or into combat, it can also be used to get loot out of the hands of one ally so a different teammate can finish hauling it off the board. This power is similar to bait and switch, with the main difference being that power moves the loot instead of the figure, and it moves 4 inches instead of 3 inches. It also has a target number of just 14 to resist, and inflicts 2 points of strain. But armor doesn't interfere with that power. Comparing the two, suggestion's higher resistance number means it is more reliable once activated, but the armor interference means it'll be more difficult for most commanders to use. However, its lower strain value means it can potentially be used more times in a battle. The movement distance is slightly better with bait and switch. However, it can only target soldiers, whereas suggestion can work on captains and first mates also. But the big question is whether it's better to move a figure or a loot token. I'd say the ability to move a loot token closer to allied figures is usually better than moving an enemy away from their loot tokens, as it'll make it more difficult for that enemy to reclaim the loot. But suggestion's ability to also move enemy figures into the open can allow for a more aggressive, combat-focused strategy while still frustrating an opponent with dropping their loot. And its secondary function to also serve as a movement power for allied figures, though not as reliable for this as some of the other powers, means suggestion has more versatility. Based on all this information, I give suggestion 3 out of 5 stars, as it's a power that grants a lot of options for battlefield control, though primarily just to non-armor wearing captains and first mates, because there's other options available to those that are wearing armor. But suggestion's low strain and difficulty to resist means it could be a go-to power for unarmored commanders. I suggest you check out my other Stargrave content and comment below with your thoughts about this power, whether you agree or disagree with my assessment. I'm Alan with Bricks and Blocks Gaming. Thanks for watching and play well.